G'day guys, Jeff and Matt from ATP Science. We've got a personalised health summit that we're doing at the Gold Coast Convention Centre on November 2nd and 3rd. Matt, what is your personalised health summit all about?
Well, basically what we're going to do is we're going to help you find out where you're at, go through your symptom picture questionnaire, find out what your particular health priorities are.
Yep.
And then over a couple of days, we've got some great guest speakers coming from everywhere, all over Australia and the world. We've got Rich Kreider coming over, the expert on creatine.
Head of the ISSN?
Yeah, he's the head of the International Society of Sports Nutrition.
Yep.
And works with Texas University, mainly the NFL and the American military, those sort of people. So some great knowledge.
Grandfather of creatine, actually, one of the guys.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, he's a smart guy. Yep, who else we got, Matt?
Simon Hill from Plant Proof.
We got excellent, we had him on the podcast.
Fofi Van Kampen.
Yeah.
And she's doing some gardening and all that sort of stuff. We've got James Newbury, Cara Saunders. But
from
CrossFit. So what you're going to do is we're going to go through, find out where you're at, what your particular health priorities are, and then over a couple of days we're going to have all these keynote speaking, these electives, so you can go and learn about your particular strengths and weaknesses and how to take that to the next level in regards to performance.
The thing about the speakers that we've got as well too, it's a real cross-section. Oh, don't forget, we've also got Liz Lambert as well too.
Ken Ware. I mean, he's capable of getting people out of wheelchairs. It's probably worth a mention.
Yeah, I mean, like the chaos theory. I mean, he was on 60 Minutes and literally have a look at some of the speakers we've got.
He's changed my life in 6 months.
So it's really going to be something that's a bit special, and you're going to be able to follow on with your own questionnaire so that when you're listening to the information, you're going to be able to effectively help to diagnose your issues or your areas and things that you want to be able to work on. So, and at the end, we're going to get all of these guys together with a big panel for a massive Q&A section. You're going to be able to break out into electives and ask questions and learn specifically about different areas that these guys are experts in. So it's something pretty different, pretty exciting, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, jump online to atphealthsummit.com. That's atphealthsummit.com, where you can actually learn more. Of course, you can always get in contact with us through Facebook, and also jump onto the websites. There'll be links there as well too. So, Matt.
Sweet. See you there. November 2nd and 3rd.
Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt and Jeff, and today we have Rob Killian, our Spartan athlete, with us today. G'day. How you going, Rob?
Doing really well. Thank you guys for having me on. Yeah,
good. Mate, busy weekend here at Spartan. Would love to know more about your backstory. You're currently number one in Spartan for the males, correct?
Number one, I think, in the hearts and minds of the I guess audience or the spectators. I think I'm the favorite.
Right.
That's where I guess
the people's favorite.
The favorite. But you won this event last year, correct?
No, 2015.
Oh, 2015.
And I've come in third the past 3 years, so I have the record for the most podium finishes. So I guess I'm the most consistent at the World Championships, and favored possibly due to the harsh weather that's coming in.
Yeah.
I'm not the fastest,
right.
I'm not the strongest, but I'm the guy with the most grit and determination.
So actually, that's a perfect segue into, I wanted to sort of go back a little bit and sort of talk about your history, your military career, and then how you got into Spartan and
the grit.
Yeah,
how'd you get the grit?
Exactly. So where did it all begin for you? And if we want to go back to as far back as you want, really.
Yeah, so I do come from a triathlon background. One of the things in the military that they have that I think is really cool is what's MWR, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. So they have a competitive sports program within that called All Army Sports. You can compete in soccer. You can compete in rugby. You can do basketball. And they started an obstacle course racing team. So the way they recruited for this obstacle course racing team, they're looking like, hey, what are guys good at? In other sports, so triathlon. And within the military, my biggest accolade, I would say, even in sports in general, is the best ranger competition.
Right.
So we put on a 3-day competition, the best of the best. So 1% of the U.S. Army is actually ranger qualified. 1% of those get to actually compete in the best ranger competition. So you're literally talking about the best of the best.
Right.
And it's the most elite competition. We do 3 days nonstop over 27 events. And just to give you an idea, they had an actual Spartan race was one of the 26 events. So you look at how grueling Spartan race and obstacle course racing is. And we're basically doing every medical combat shooting task that you're required to do in combat. So you go through all these events, and they're scored, depending on how you finish. So you're doing a big ruck march with a lot of weight. You then go into a stress shoot where you have to shoot a bunch of targets.
Wow.
Then you go into a medical task. You jump out of a helicopter, and you're all being graded on how proficient you do these per the standards for the military. So I finished sixth, second in that competition, and then I finally was able to win it. And I guess the way that they recruited the first obstacle course racing team to come up to Tahoe, because the way that the race used to be scored is you could have an individual champion, but you could also have a team champion. And it was your best 3 guys and 1 girl combined time.
Right.
So the Army was like, hey, we want to put together a team, go to Tahoe, Spartan Race World Championships, and win. And where are we going to find our best athletes? So they called 3 of the previous Best Ranger winners.
Yep.
And a really solid female. And we showed up, and I really had no idea when he called me. Like, he's like, hey, I want Rob, I want you to do this obstacle course racing thing. I think you're going to be great at it. It's very similar to the obstacles that we do in the special operations. So if you're training for Ranger, you're training for Special Forces, you need to be able to pull guys out of combat in an urban environment. You need to drag them through windows. If they're injured, you need to be able to move them. So we do a lot of obstacle training just to be, ready for those tasks in combat.
Wow.
So he calls me up and he's like, hey, there's this new thing. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be the rookie who just shows up and has never done a Spartan race before. I want to get my feet wet. So I look up, where's the Spartan race in Colorado? That's where I live. And first one that popped up was in Breckenridge. So I show up, and it's the beast distance. I'm expecting to, get to compete against all the top guys.
And the beast distance is?
Beast is 13 plus miles and 30 plus obstacles. So every course, and this is what I love about obstacle course racing, is a little different. So a 5K is a 5K is a 5K, a 10K, a marathon. No matter where you go, you pretty much know what to expect: flat, fast, hard packed pavement, or on a track. With Spartan racing and OCR, every race is different. Even if that's the same venue, it could be a different distance. The obstacles are in different places. There could be different obstacles you've never seen before, and the terrain and weather. So you have all these variables that I think that's what makes it so exciting and so unique.
Yeah.
But so we get back to Breckenridge, and I sign up for the beast distance. I go out there and compete, and at that time we had NBC Sports was broadcasting a series. So they had the top athletes doing those races. So I'm out there thinking I'm competing against the best. Well, who goes to the marathon and does the half marathon?
Right.
The top. So they actually had a sprint that day, and all the pro athletes, that's where they were racing, because that was the NBC race.
Right.
So I hopped into the beast just not knowing. I took 3rd place overall.
Wow.
But I did really well in my first race, but it wrecked me. I couldn't walk for a week downstairs. My quads were blown up.
Right.
My upper body felt like I got hit like a bus, and it's a full body workout. It's like just tested every aspect of my fitness, even after, all the stuff that I've done in the military.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is my next thing. Like, this is what I want to do. And I think, between that military background, between the sports program, triathlon, I went to Kona for the military, won the Kona Ironman World Championships for the military category in 2009, and that got me 2010 Army Athlete of the Year. I took a few years off to go to the Special Forces course, did some deployments, went to North Africa, and then right when my active duty time kind of was up, one door closed September 30th. That's the end of the military fiscal year.
Yeah.
October 1st, I won the championships here in Tahoe.
Wow.
In 2015, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to do this professionally?" And I'm like, "Is there money in it? Or you just won $15,000? I think
Wow.
If you keep doing well, there's
Yeah.
potential. Like, what's your social media look like?" I don't have social media because I'm a Green Beret, and
Of course.
we're quiet professionals, and we're out doing missions. So they're like, "Well, you're gonna have to, break that silence, because that's marketing dollars for companies, depending on how you can reach and influence."
Yeah.
So I got a couple social media classes, got smart on that, and
Well,
here we are, like 4 years later.
we actually,
Yeah,
and we were
that's
talking
right.
to Nicole just previously about that. What's it like to be a professional athlete? And she was saying that for her, she's chosen it. Yes, there's enough money to make a living, but it's about the lifestyle, about going to amazing venues like this and being able to travel the world and competing and doing what you love. But $15,000 isn't bad for an event. Like in terms of pay wise, like is it as good as the military or better?
I would say prize money specifically, we're not at the level of obviously like CrossFit Games, Ironman Championship, stuff like that. They get $300,000 to $250,000 for a world championship, but we're the fastest growing sport in the world. We're the only sport, I would say, you can come out and really do the same exact course that the pros do. You get to mingle with us and experience exactly what we get to experience. You can't go out and play on an NFL football field. You
Yeah.
can't go
that's a
out
good
and do
point.
like. But the open waves after we start the elite, they're running the exact same course we're on.
Yeah.
They get to come after up to us after the race and meet us and greet us. So I think there's a lot of opportunity where we may not get his prize money, but the influence and having 5 million plus people racing Spartan per year.
Yeah.
That's where it's at, because you look at some sports that are in the Olympics. And, you look at the spectators, and it's mainly their brothers, sisters, moms, dads, friends who are in the stands. And that event maybe has like 30 people that are competing, and that's it. That's not really – it's just a really popular sport that's, over time kind of maybe not so popular anymore, or that many people don't participate in. And I think it's cool that, Spartan race is growing. We're developing, and – there's certain sports that even just got into the Olympics, like surfing, rock climbing. Yeah. Those weren't previously on the ballot until like really recent. So I don't know what obstacle course racing is looking like per that, but I think that is the end goal. I mean, I think that's a pinnacle in everyone's mind, is a type of games event. But I think we're doing really well as a starter sport without that, history or that level yet. I mean, when I came here in 2015, and seeing what we did today for a first time ever, Parade of Nations, and the amount of people that were there, it just blew my mind. I was like, there's so many people here, and this is such a big event. And in 2015, it was pretty big, but it's just gotten better and better each year, and bigger and more events.
Yeah, well, I mean, even watching popular television now, like there's so many, like they've got Stone Cold Austin, he's doing one. I don't know if you've seen that on TV, where he brings people up and it's all obstacle courses and competing, and there's
I've actually been on that. Broken Skull Challenge.
That's it?
Yeah. I competed on that 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I've actually got to go on for $1 Million Mile was this year.
Wow.
It was another. And Spartan actually had 2 seasons of Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge.
Yeah.
So we did Spartan race-like events with a 4-person team. In both years, I was honored to get to actually compete with active duty military. Wow. So they'd have a team captain who was a professional Spartan athlete, and then you get 4 athletes who had never done like Spartan before, and you had to kind of coach them. So there's a lot of fun and a lot of
viewership. It's really interesting. It's really cool to watch, and that's the sort of stuff. I mean, it's all about viewership, right? And also by default, that inspires people to go, you know what, I can do that. I mean, and that's what you want. Like in poker, there was what they call the moneymaker event, which is where poker became huge. For what you mentioned before, is that everyday Joe could go and enter an event and be right next to the professionals, the best people of the day, which is kind of exciting. You want to be around.
Well, you could win. You've got to be in it to win it. So so there's not heats, there's not different divisions.
There are waves. So you have an elite wave, but you don't necessarily, at least this year and previous years, I think they're actually looking to change it where, like in triathlon, if you want to compete in the pro level, you have to have a pro card. Right. So you have to have qualified and proven that you've earned it. Yeah. And up to this point, it's not. It's just like, hey, if you want to pay to be in the elite wave and start early in the morning, you're welcome to do that.
Wow.
So they cap it at like I think 300-ish for the elite. So as long as it's not sold out.
Yeah. Are you seeded? So like, do you get like you're at the front of the pack? You're not like.
Yes, they do. Depending on the national championship series, it's like how many points they'll do call ups. Right. So they'll say, hey, these guys get to call up. Yeah. They'll bring you forward, and you kind of get to start in the front.
Yeah, because you don't want to get stuck at the back of the pack.
No, definitely not. No, especially the format, the Spartan race it is. We're on a lot of mountains. Yeah. We're doing a lot of climbing. There's a lot of single track trails. So if you get stuck, there's really not a lot of room to pass because you're on a single track biking or running trail. So you're not on a road, or a lot of times what we do in Spartan race, and what I absolutely love is bushwhacking, because I come from an orienteering background where you're running through the woods and there's no trail. Right. You have a left and right piece of tape that's guiding you along. Yeah. But you're going through thorns, you're going through jungle bushes. I mean, you're just going through the shit, like literally, and you have to figure out, the fastest way. And I'm really good at that.
So you got to pick your path, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Actually, I'm looking up the hill now. I can see the tape up the mountainside as we speak.
And it's a 40% grade that you're probably looking at right behind us. So 45.
We're trying to work it out.
Really, that's what it's at that point at the hill. And I think, depending on what direction we go. We could either be going up or down that. I'm not really sure yet. I think we're going up it.
I was
How
going to
cool
ask
is that? You still
haven't-
don't know?
Oh, I was going to say you haven't run
Yeah.
the course. Are you allowed to go and walk the course?
So you're not actually allowed to, and there's actually this massive controversy right now because on Monday, the previous world champion of last year, John Albin from Great Britain, ran the course. And he's not very good at reading the rule book. Although you would think he's a two-time world champion. That's my go-to. Rules, in my opinion, are what make sport. You can't have a sport without rules.
Yes.
I mean, that's just like
That's how you decide
that's
what
how
the game is.
that's what a game is.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have established rules.
Yeah.
You break the rules in any sport, there's either a penalty or a disqualification. Now,
Correct.
I would hate to see that, but
Yeah.
at the same time,
But
how
there's
much
other
of an
ath-
advantage would that be?
Everyone's saying it's not because the course isn't very different from previous years.
Okay, so then why don't they let you go walk it?
That's the thing is he has an additional advantage that no one else has, even if
Yeah.
it's just
Slight.
slight, yeah.
How close are some of these events in terms of?
Like 5 seconds.
Oh wow!
So
Okay,
you mean
no,
if
no.
you can go down a descent that you've already seen Monday and
Yep.
have the
Pick a path.
confidence, because even if you run the course before, I get it, but rocks are in different places.
Yep.
The snow has changed and altered the terrain.
Uh-huh.
You're more confident in your head that, hey, I did that Monday. I know this turn. I don't remember last year turn for turn.
Yeah.
No.
So it does. And the thing that I like John, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, I can tell that.
But it's one of those things where other athletes have gotten disqualified this year for breaking rules. So if you make an exception for him, and again, he's going to probably hate me for this, but if he listens to the podcast. So last year,
Everyone
Probably
listens to this,
everyone
but
listens to the podcast.
well, last year I gave him a really hard time because he was the only athlete in the entire world who didn't properly qualify for Tahoe. So they put out a qualification again in March, but he doesn't read the rule book. He doesn't read
Right.
the qualification standards. So he didn't know that he needed to compete in a race and win because he is a previous world champion. And what sport, can you tell me, even the Olympics, does the gold medalist from the previous Olympics get to go back? What Super Bowl winner gets to automatically go back?
Look,
You don't get a free ride. If it's a rule, you have to earn. And there's a lot of Olympians
Yeah.
that are better than
Yep.
maybe the world, the current, but they didn't have that qualification to get them there that day.
the
Yeah.
Australian 4x100 swim team blitzed the competition. I forget, it was 2012, 2008. They blitzed them, and they were celebrating on the side. And one of the photographers said to one of the girls, "Hey, why don't you go jump into the pool in celebration?" And she ran and she jumped just as the very last person in lane 8 came in to touch, and it was literally
impeding her. Yeah.
yeah, like they're in
The whole
lane
team was
5.
disqualified.
The whole team was disqualified, and they lost the gold medal, right?
Right.
But rules is rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a tough thing, and it would be very interesting because there are only 4 world champions in Spartan race. So those 4 guys, 3 of them are 2-time champions, and I'm the only one that's not. And they've all repeated in the exact same order that they started. So unfortunately, 2 of them don't race this Sunday. They're Mormon, and they will not race on Sunday.
Right.
So that leaves just John and I. If he gets disqualified, I'm the only previous world champion that would be racing
right.
on Sunday, and that would be kind of crazy, but I don't know what they're going to do. I think they're going to let him race because the overwhelming people are like, oh, did he get advantage? That's silly, but I mean, the elite guy, that's the open wave people talking on social
Yeah,
media.
exactly.
The elite guys are like, hey, man,
They
if
know.
I would have done that, they probably would have disqualified me or something.
Yeah.
You don't really know. Like, if everyone else is doing the right thing and if you have this one guy, you don't really know. Like,
No, I
don't
have
know.
a great deal of sympathy.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's going to
So-
be interesting. They still haven't announced. So right after we got done, just now, even with the parade of nations, they say, we still haven't made this decision because everybody's waiting to hear. We're going to wait till tomorrow morning, I guess.
Wow.
And I can't tell if it's a publicity thing and they're just trying to keep people on edge,
Oh, yeah.
or if they're actually really sitting down and discussing this, thoroughly. And I hope they're not just taking the feedback off social media because, in my opinion, they need to sit down with the top 10 guys in the world and let us make the decision.
Yeah.
Because we're the ones who are impacted.
Yeah.
And you know if it's
like-
an advantage or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, though. John Albin doesn't race all season. This is the first time I've seen him. He literally does that. He trains all year and just shows up for the big races.
Right.
And it's a challenging thing for us to race all the series. And OCR, in my opinion, destroys your body more than a lot of other sports.
Sure.
Because we don't get an off season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going from February to December.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly racing, you're taking that little bit of water out of your, Camelback every time. And then once you hit depletion, it's really hard to do that at the end of the season.
And the risk of injury.
Why don't they do it like tennis, for example, or golf, where they give you a certain number of points, and then at the end of this,
you have 2 different championships. You have a point series. So they used to do a point series, and I've won that a couple times, and it was pretty awesome. Like, you had a point series where you accumulate, points for the distance. So you get more points for a beast versus a super versus a sprint. And we can go on a quick tangent. So that's another thing I love about Spartan races. There's so many multiple distances. So you can start out maybe with a workout tour, and then you can go to what's called the sprint distance, as short as 3 to 5 miles, 20 obstacles. And they have what my favorite format of anything, stadium sprints. So you're in this big stadium, AT&T Stadium in Dallas. They've got Fenway Park, up in Boston. Just these historic events, and you can run through them, run through the locker rooms, get the exposure that you would never potentially see if you weren't running this race in the stadium. You can do one of those. You can work your way up to a super distance, 8+ miles, 25 obstacles, 28, and then up to the beast where you're doing 13+ miles, 30+ obstacles. Yeah. And then now what they have used to be Ultra Beast. Now they call it the Ultra, and they're having that race tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., and it's 2 laps of the beast. So you're doing 26 to 30 miles, 60+ obstacles. You're allowed to stop after the first lap in a transition area and kind of switch your gear if you need some stuff or replenish. But when you're out on course, you're out on course. Right. So whatever you take with you, you need to be able to sustain yourself for that whole duration. Oh. And then that's not even the end. You can go to what's called hurricane heats. So Joe DeSena decided one time there was a race in Florida, and there was a hurricane that came in. They were going to cancel it. And all these Spartans and all these prisoners got so pissed off. They were like, you can't do this. He's like, all right, whoever wants to come, meet me in the morning, show up, and we're gonna do something. It's not gonna be a race. But so what they did is they did like a military boot camp type. Hey, grab a telephone pole. We're gonna take this telephone pole for 2 miles through the course, to the mud, to the water, all the obstacles as a group. So that spawned a hurricane heats. So now you have a 12-hour hurricane heat. You have a 24-hour hurricane heat, and then Spartan race actually started to develop from death race.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
So Joe DeSena has death race, and he just brought that back this year, and that's pretty much
That sounds messed up.
It's completely messed up. Like you don't even know what to expect.
No.
So it's like a team event that turns into an individual cutthroat event. Yeah. And even last year, Joe, like I was giving, for example, one of the events, he's like, all right, we're going to break the world record for the longest continuous barbed wire crawl. So there was like guys, they made a circle of barbed wire, and they're literally crawling through it for like 18 hours, just like nonstop. Or he had another challenge of a rope pull, and he had a continuous rope pull machine, and they had to pull the rope to climb so many feet, and that was a record. And I think they did 24 hours of just pulling a rope, nonstop.
And was it burying people a lot? There was it writing obituaries and stuff as well?
Yeah, I mean, they do crazy. So when I did a Gogi, it's similar to Death Race. They had us standing in a barn in Vermont. It was -10 outside. It was 32, 33 in the barn. We were standing barefoot on a wooden floor, and we had these medics coming around poking our feet to see if we had frostbite.
Oh, wow.
And they would tell you, don't move, don't move. They're like yelling at you. And literally like 2 people got dropped for frostbite, and they were just trying their hardest not to get frozen feet. And I'm sitting there like wiggling, like, I don't care if I get yelled at. I'd rather get yelled at than get dropped.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm trying to stay warm. But yeah, and then we had a hostage negotiator, because he likes to bring military in for what's called crypteia. So they're like the cadre. And they're telling us all these stories and going through all, and you're trying to just sit there at attention with your eyes closed for like 2 hours. I mean, we were like, it's just, it's like this mental toughness thing and grit type thing we're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's the Agogi. And then, like you said, after Agogi, you can go to Death Race. And that's pretty much the pinnacle is Death Race. And
so you
can pick your poison. You can do everything.
You have an unfair advantage, though. You're saying in your bio, because you've come from military, you've been special forces, and like any of the other top competitors in the men's special forces, or is it just
not even
you?
in the military.
Wow.
Which is kind of unique. I feel like there's a lot of guys that I've been with in the military who have a very similar skill set that I do, and I think they'd be really good at obstacle course racing.
Yeah.
And, a few have tried, and a few of my friends who are athletes, tried, but they've never been able to really crack the like top 30 or 40.
Right.
But Yeah, no, there's no. I kind of long for that military camaraderie sometimes, and I wish there were more pro team guys that had that, experience and that background. But to be honest, there's only maybe 2 or 3 out of the top 20, including myself, 2 or 3 that have families, like wife and kids and stuff like that. So
Right.
And I wouldn't say that's a challenge, but it's when you're competing, hey, I want to go hang out with my son versus doing another workout, I'm going to choose hanging out with my son.
Of course.
So it's like, it's a balance between everything. And I wouldn't say, to be a pro, you always have to win races. I think it's just, how you compose yourself while you're racing. Definitely your performance is going to matter. You want to win, big events, and you want to win the goals and meet the goals that you set. But it's, like we're saying, like being inspirational and being like the people's champion, or like staying at the venue until it closes down, watching the last person come in, going to the kids races, giving out kids medals, and like spending time with the community. And coming from triathlon, we're like a bunch of like, I'm sorry if I insult triathletes, I'm a triathlete, but there's a bunch of rich, pretentious mindsets there, and there's just a different vibe. When I go to a transition area in a triathlon, like nobody talks to me and no one's like friendly, and like the average income is probably like $160,000, I think, for people who compete in Ironman.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a different group of people. So when I came over to the Spartan race, everyone's so supportive, and everyone's so just like eager to help you get past these obstacles and to give you advice and to share their experience. I mean, if you guys just sat outside and just spectated people walking by after the race, you would hear them talking nonstop, not just after the race, for a week, for a month, about that course, something that was challenging, difficult, that they overcame or that they shared. And that's what I love about this sport, is just that you leave with those memories and they just last for a long time.
And the community is strong.
And the community
Really
is just
strong.
amazing.
Yeah, we felt that straight away. I mean, like, this is obviously the first time at the Spartan, and immediately we just felt so accepted, and like people were going out of their way to help us. And some of the people, so friendly. Hey, how you going? Oh, you're from Australia. Straight away up, striking up conversations and things like that. Which
But
was
that
just
same theme, I keep talking about it in all the podcasts. We're seeing the same theme all the time. The toughest and the most badass people around are the kindest, the most supportive. They help
true.
people. It's the funniest thing. Like, you come from, in Australia, there's this big movement of angst and aggression and just wankers everywhere. But the problem is trying to explain to people that the real tough people, the people with real grit and experience and all that sort of stuff, they're not that way. They're not self-centered, ego-driven. They're actually gone through that. They're now soul-driven and helpful. you know?
Yeah.
And that's what we've noticed through the Spartan community, and even regarding podcasts, in Australia, again, we talk about the crabs in the bucket and the tall poppy syndrome, where people don't want to see anyone succeed and they'll pull people down, and but we're seeing in this support of our business and our podcast, and that even in amongst this community being really, it's
really refreshing.
uplifting. It is very
really
refreshing.
really
That's
different.
probably the word.
And again, I think it's people working together to build a community to support and help other people, and it's actually outwardly focused. Which
And that's
is
why the
not
tribe's
self-focused.
growing. That's why the tribe's growing so fast.
Oh, yeah.
That's why the
Spartan,
sport's booming.
So in terms of your social media, just coming back to obviously then making this work, sharing your experience in Spartan, and how have you gone with that social media aspect, and have you been able to grow a community, and is that working?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that motivates me the most, is to see how social media can be a positive influence. Like, I have people write me like, hey, you're the reason I did my first Spartan race. You're the reason I lost 100 pounds. Like literally, I had a mom write me like, hey, my son just joined the military because he follows you and he sees that. And I'm like, wow, like that's impactful.
Yeah.
And granted, there are the negative trolls out there, but it's the 1% you got to just, hey, they're out there. You got to just ignore them. And they're, in my opinion, not lashing out at me. They're trying to resolve something in their lives by attacking others.
Yeah. Or just
And
usually get some attention because no one cares when
Yeah.
they talk about themselves.
Exactly. And it's, you got to really look at it, the aspect and the positive impacts. And I would say, like the social media following, like, it really blows my mind when I go somewhere, like to an airport, and they're like, "You're Robert Killian." I'm like, "What the? Are you serious right now?" Like, and it's I think that aspect of it, and I don't have like a crazy following. They have like 35,000, but those people are so loyal, and it's like I don't pay companies to like boost my followers. Those are like natural, and they're really interactive. And even like after the Parade of Nations, I was down there for like 10 minutes just taking photos from people from so many different countries. And I find it's pretty odd. A lot of Americans actually don't go out of the United States and race. And I love to go to like Austria. I've been to Iceland. I went to Japan, did the Rakuten Stadium race last year. And I feel more welcomed and like they roll out the red carpet at those events than I do at home. And it's just, there's so much passion, especially in Europe. And I just love that. And I can't help but like go back there every year and just because I want to experience that. And I feel like it revives my passion for OCR. And I don't think without, social media and without that interaction, I would have had that connection. I just wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's pretty exciting.
Cool. Yeah, it is.
It's excellent. You got any more questions, Ben?
Oh, heaps. Because what I really wanted to talk about as well is you got this mental toughness, all right? And so we've learned all that sort of stuff, and you're physically fit and that sort of thing. Sleep. You sleep well? You're a good sleeper? Because is that something, I just seen in military movies where they seem to sleep really well. Is that something you can do really well?
No. I actually have to take sleeping aids. I think it's like, I don't know what the active ingredient is, like HCl. I don't know what it's like. But I tried, like I guess not really meditation, but just try to clear my mind before sleep. And sometimes I do evening workouts to make me more tired so I'm able to sleep.
Yep.
What is it that keeps you up?
But,
is it just, have you always been like that? Or
yeah,
is it
I
since
think
you've been
that's
in
the thing is
military?
like when you're in the military and you've been to combat and you've been deployed, it's really hard to let that kind of go. So it's not that I have anxiety, it's just I'm a really light sleeper. If someone makes a noise, if they cough, anything, I'm just straight away I'm up. And especially when we had our first two children.
Yeah.
Because if they cry or you're just up.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. I actually won the world championships. We had our daughter, my wife did 3 weeks before I won the world championship. So we just had an infant at home. And I just came in like tired and buggered, I'm just like, I'm not going to win this. And, the mentality, I think, and I actually slept really well that week because I was, didn't have a lot of expectations, didn't have a lot of pressure, didn't have a lot of people expecting me to perform. But I think one of the things I tried that was a little different, at least for me, I've never done this before, is talking to a sports psychologist today. For 2 hours, they did a session. And it was really interesting, like how he was able to correlate the things that have been bothering me to not sleeping well.
Yeah, right.
So I'm actually kind of curious, and I already feel kind of more at ease with the things he was telling me and the, I guess, methods to kind of express your anxiety in different ways and to just let it go and to realize that, hey, it's happened. There's nothing you can do to change it. And, people say this all the time, but for you to actually believe it and to implement it, that's where the change is. People are like, you can always say it and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it doesn't bother me. But, subconsciously, maybe it doesn't. You just don't want to let yourself accept it. So that's what I think it is, that crossover where you really have to believe it and implement it. But I also have to sleep with earplugs.
Right.
If I don't have earplugs in, I cannot sleep.
So I know that you've
I
got
have a memory foam mattress.
Yeah.
I go all out. Like I have to have my special pillow.
We noticed
got
the Whoop.
So, and we're talking to the CEO about that.
Yeah, so I actually ran into Will earlier, and I told him about how many years I've been using it. I actually pulled on my phone. I'm like, look, and go back to 2017, and every day, I've been wearing this Whoop, and that's the thing I never took that seriously was how your deep sleep, how your light sleep, and all that, and especially your heart rate variability. So your heart rate.
This a device that you wear on your wrist measures all of that for people that don't know.
Yeah, and that's what's unique, I think, about this particular heart rate monitor is, you might have one on your watch, you might want to have on your, your bike while you're working out, but you're only getting that heart rate data while you're working out.
Yeah.
This is always on. It's always on all day.
Yeah.
It takes your calorie consumption for an entire day. Because you're burning calories while you're walking. You're burning calories when you're sitting.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, how many calories you burn? Oh, I did this workout. I burned, 1,000 calories. But throughout the whole day, so that really helps with nutrition.
Yep.
Because now you know how to replenish how many calories you should be eating a day. And I, get to have the privilege. I'm a coach. So I think one of the things you were talking about earlier that I really inspired to do is try to provide my experiences to others so they can get their results faster, either through coaching. And for me, I think that's my next step. I actually had this question asked to me earlier today. Is like, what is next for you? You've
Yeah.
done everything. You've won the world championship. You've won the best ranger competition. You made history. You're the first National Guard team to do that. You're special forces. You're Green Beret. You have a beautiful wife. You have kids. You have, like, what are you inspired to do next? And I think that is my next thing. Coaching, like giving back, like sharing that experience. And look at what we're doing right now. We're on a podcast talking to people. And I think that's an important part of human nature, is that interaction with other humans, you know, your experiences, and just giving them that inspiration or that hope and that, you know, like positive mentality.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm giving back. But the Whoop and that aspect, so I have a coaching program. I have 25 athletes that I work with. And it's awesome to, OCR in my opinion is very hard to train for and to actually as a coach program for, because a 10K is on a track or a 5K is on a track. It's very similar workouts that you're always going to be doing. Doesn't matter if you're in London, England, you know, like the UK, United States, you're going to be on the same track, same distance. It's all very standardized. But for OCR, it's venue specific, not even distance specific. You train for the venue that you're racing. So what I'm able to do with Whoop is whenever you're working out, you get a day strain. So it actually tells you how hard that you worked out based off of your specific heart rate level and what effort you gave. And you can then kind of see how recovered you are the next day. So you wake up the next day while you're sleeping, your heart rate has a certain beats in between, you know, heartbeats, and that's the variability. And there's an algorithm that they've developed, you know, and studied thousands of athletes, and they can pinpoint how recovered you are based off of your, you know, your HRV, your heart rate variability when you're sleeping, right before you wake up. So you wake up and you have this recovery number.
Yeah.
So now you know for that day, they do it on a pretty easy scale: green, yellow, amber, or red.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of base your workouts for that day. You don't want to go do a really high intensity, long endurance race when you're in the red.
Yeah.
You kind of want to do that when you're in the green. So if you need an extra day off, it kind of cues you into that and doesn't allow you to overtrain necessarily.
And gives you a
I
bit
like
of
that
an
about
indication if the day before, if your supplementation and your food and that sort of stuff was handy, because you're, like you're saying before, a 5 kilometre or 10 kilometre race, you can plan your supplementation, your electrolytes, your fluids, plan all that sort of stuff. In regards to obstacle course race, I know you're using some of the ATP products. Have you found that they suit? Because our products are more designed to help people to adapt to stress or take burden off the body rather than have a specific salt and water hydration ability or something, you know? So.
Yeah, so I've been using a lot of the products. I think, but the one that I found, you know, I've been doing all the 4 pillars, a lot of the resilience, obviously, because there's a lot of stuff, you know, that you're interacting and you just want your defenses to always be up. But the gut right, to me, and listening to your guys' podcast on, you know, gut health. And by the way, my wife is absolutely your guys' biggest fan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, so I actually got like an awesome package in with all the products, and you know, I was first trying the gut right, and there was like a little podcast thing, but it just had women's podcasts.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I think you should listen to these. Like, these are some pretty good topics. And she looked at me like, what are you trying to tell me? Am I like out of shape? Am I fat? You know what I'm like?
Words
man,
are
like,
the same all over
I'm like,
the world.
come on, just give it a try. And so she listened to me, and now she's like hooked on it. You know, she's like, she's just crushing episodes, and she's actually implementing a lot of the stuff. She's cutting certain sugars and certain things out of her diet because she relates to some of the things you guys have been talking about, either anxiety or, you know, stuff that's going on with her. And it's been awesome. So to see that, but for me, for gut right, and just, you know, the importance of your gut and health, and like you were saying, like, and especially in the podcast, how it can, you know, change your cortisol levels. It can really, you know, impact, and you want to be 100% as an athlete. Yeah. And I think that's, for me, that's, you know, the biggest one that I've been seeing great results from.
Yeah,
too.
that's excellent. Yeah. That's excellent. Because with the ATP products, like I was saying, you know, they're more designed for everyday athletes, weekend warriors, all the way through to the elite athletes, because we all have the same immune, inflammatory, hormonal problems, and that just helps you keep you more balanced. So
well, sometimes with elite athletes, they can be pushing themselves, obviously, like your watch can say, sometimes into the extreme, so you need as much support.
Well, man, when I was a naturopath for 20 years, and I used to do a lot, you know, I'd take all these case files from all these people with chronic fatigue syndrome and all these amazing health problems they got, these terribly bad things. And then I'd have a file for an athlete. Apart from the fact that it said athlete on the top, it's all the same stuff. So it's still got, I got the gut problems, I get these same hormonal problems, I have sleep problems. The difference is a lot of that mental attitude and that sort of stuff and what you're actually doing with your energy and your time.
I agree.
Yeah.
And this obstacle course racing seems to be something that anyone could really get into.
Oh, yeah, it's addicting.
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people. Just come out and do a sprint, do one. And then they have is called the trifecta. So you can get, your sprint, your super, and your beast, and then you actually get a special medal. It's called the trifecta.
Yeah.
And so then you're part of the trifecta tribe, and it's like a big thing. And then you can get 2 times trifecta, 3 times. So we actually have a guy who's done, I think it was 23, and that's like the record.
Wow.
23, 24. So he did times 3 races, like 23 times, and it was pretty legit. And every time, the medal you get is bigger. And his is like bigger than like a dinner plate.
That's
It's
awesome.
just massive. Like he's had dinner off of it. It's like, so I think that's what's cool again about Spartan in that next level. And then you could always kind of push yourself. But it is absolutely addicting. And it's, in my opinion, it's just getting back to human nature. We're built to run. We're built to be outside in nature. We're built to go outside. And I think being outdoors, being more primitive, jumping, going through barbed wire, it's just naturally healthy. And I'm telling you, just the stories, that's what really sells it for me, is just hearing the experience of people after the race. It's something that they talk about like nonstop. And I think that is how you judge success of something, is how it impacts a person and how many memories and how long it lasts and resonates with them.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say is the other thing that humans look for is community and a place of belonging as well too. And I think that's the thing with Spartan, is that it's got that community, it's got that welcoming, it's got that support from the top athletes down to the first person, the first race that they've ever run, and people want to belong somewhere. So
it's an inclusive thing, isn't it?
Well, it's great. I mean, it means it doesn't matter whether, what your level of fitness is or isn't, you can start, right? Start right now. So,
Right before the Parade of Nations, I actually talked to a 73-year-old woman who's going out to do the Ultra Beast tomorrow.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I'm
Ultra
saying?
Beast.
Yeah. Like 30 plus miles. There's 40-degree temperatures.
Which is 40 Fahrenheit for Australian listeners. So we're talking about like 5, 6
rain.
Is it 0? No, 40 degrees is 0.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cold. And then on top of the mountain, they're predicting 40 to 50 mile per hour winds.
Oh.
And the water temperature up there is 51 degrees. So you have a swim portion. So gear for this race is like, you're going to die or live based off of the equipment that you pick for this weekend. So it's going to be very challenging.
The wind chill factor as well too is going to be...
The wind will just rip through you.
You get out of that water... Oh my gosh.
So they're going to make a decision at 8 o'clock in the morning whether they're actually going to implement the swim. But even if not, there's other water obstacles. There's a dunk wall.
Yeah.
If you fall off some of the obstacles, like the ape hanger, so you're going across a chain ladder that you go up and then you have to go back down. But if you fall off for safety reasons, it's in water.
Wow.
So it can break your fall. So the reward kind of is, if you pass it, you maybe only get your... wet up to your knees. But if you fail, you have to kind of go up to your waist.
But even perspiration, I mean, it's going to be
it's
going
to be brutal. And I think this is the first year the weather's been this kind of brutal. In 2015, we had frost on the monkey bars. And that's the coldest start that we've had to a world championship.
Wow.
And I'm actually pretty stoked, because this year it's at 9 o'clock and not 7:30. But I want it to be the worst weather.
Yeah, because you're testing yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just putting yourself up against the elements.
And it's like, it slows these 23-year-old runners, specifically one of my biggest competitors is 23, and he goes downhill like he's on a bike.
Wow.
I'm not joking. Like, he jumps, and like, I just think he has like bionic legs or something. Like, he tapes his ankles, and just... Like, when you watch him, you're in disbelief.
Wow.
Like, he can literally descend probably like twice my speed, and I'm running like 450 miles. He's got to be running like 3-minute miles downhill.
Oh, that's
and
crazy.
It blows my mind. And not just like on a road, like on, jagged terrain with rocks. Like, it's just epic to watch. And I only get to see it for a few seconds, because then he's gone.
Yeah.
But then you pass him again later on, right?
Hopefully, on the obstacles. Because that's... excuse me. That's one of the things that it should be about the obstacle. It's an obstacle course race. It's not a trail running event. I mean, it is. We run on trails,
It
but
almost sounds like downhill skiing.
yeah, I know.
He's doing
There should
this.
be some factor where there's that balance in, street speed, strength, and endurance. And they have like double sandbag carries within the race. So we've got two 60-pound sandbags that we have to carry for about a quarter of a mile. And what they use here is the half pipe slope. So, or in the winter when they make the half pipe, so we actually go down, turn back around, and go back up with 120 additional pounds. And if you only weigh $140 or $150, that's like your body weight. So it's, it gets pretty different at 8,000 feet above sea level. So it's a lot less oxygen, and you do a bucket carry that's similar to that. It's grueling. The Yokohama tire flip actually got me a little bit last year. It was right at the end. And they had the ape hanger down here, and the aluminum that they have on there gets it oxidizes. So there's this black film that forms on it. And if you're like one of the first people, your hands get caked in it. So what I did is I put my hands in the water to try to get that black stuff off because it's a little bit slippery. And my hands got really cold, and I got to the tire flip and I couldn't do it. So what I was doing was just waiting. I was like wiping my hands off, my arms, trying to get them warm. And it just took like 40 seconds for that to actually. So I lost that time. I passed the obstacle. I lift the 400-pound tire. But what's hard about this race is they put it on asphalt. So in some races it's in the grass or it's on undulating terrain. You actually get your fingers under the tread. But when it's on asphalt, it's like you gotta actually pinch grip the side and be able to pick it up. And I think it's going to be especially challenging this weekend because rubber, when it's cold, gets hard. And it's harder to grip. Like when rubber's hot, that's why NASCAR drivers warm up their tires before an event.
It grips.
It grips good. So if it's cold, I think it's going to be a challenge. This could be a game changer obstacle. What's also unique to Spartan races is spear throw. And that's what won the 2015 Spartan Race World Championships for me, is Cody Moat and I were at the very top. All we had was a descent left. And pretty much, I was like, hey, I got to hit. We were side by side. Like we were racing together the whole time. And I was like, whoever hits this spear first, I was like, if I nail it, then the pressure's on him because he has to nail it. You know what I mean? But if I miss, then...
So what are you throwing the spear at?
A bale of hay. So there's 3 bales of hay. It's about 15 to 20 feet away. And you've got pretty much like a broomstick with a 12-inch galvanized steel nail that's, been stuck into the end of the rake or whatever, rake handle. So you're throwing this javelin spear. You only get one shot. And it's got like a rope tied to the end so that you can pull it back for the next competitor. And I didn't really practice it that much as my first, year in Spartan. But I practiced enough to where I had some good form and I nailed it. And he just missed it on the bottom. I mean, just sailed under. And I went sprinting when I turned around and I saw him go into the burpee pit, and I was like, "This is unreal."
So if you don't nail it, you have to go do burpees.
30 burpees. Right. So you got
one shot.
A minute and a half penalty time or so. And when you get back up from the burpees, you're smoked. So that's for any obstacle that you fail.
Wow.
So it's actually funny. I went to Austria 3 weeks ago. It's my favorite race. It's the hardest race. They don't give you a course map. They don't tell you how far you're going. So you have no idea what obstacles you're doing. At least for these races in the United States, they've become a little bit more standardized, and you get a course map. You know how many obstacles. You know the distance. You know the elevation gain. So you can kind of formulate a plan in your head. Spartan Austria was savage. I mean, we had a 1.1 mile sandbag with 500 feet of gain straight up the side of a mountain. In the middle of it, they actually made you put your sandbag down and do the spear throw. So you had an obstacle within an obstacle. It was just brutal. And what they do in Europe that they don't hear is a memory test. So you have this board that you come up to and you have to memorize a sequence. And then they ask you later in the race and you have to regurgitate it. And if you can't, you do 30 burpees. In normal races, they do that once. So then you're like, all right, sweet. I passed this station. I brain dump it. They did it 3 times in Austria. So you got to one person, you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done with the memory test. Then you get down to the bottom, there's a person with a clipboard and like, I already did the memory test up there. And they're like, no, again. And then I was like, okay, surely it's done. Then you get to the finish line, and I actually failed it the 3rd time.
Oh no!
Because the first sequence was my first sequence was 628, and my phone number is 648. So I kept thinking like that's how I would remember it, and I got it the first 2 times. And for some reason at the very end, I kept saying 648.
I get it.
And then boom, burpees. So I did 120 burpees in Austria. That's the most I've ever done in a race. and the average for the top 15 guys was 90.
Wow.
It was just a burpee fest, and it was very similar weather to what we're going to see on Sunday. So I do feel prepared, and I feel like I've gone back and, like tightened up my shot group a little bit. But I definitely can feel the impact of burpees in your race. I mean, it just tires you out. It's an additional, just...
No one likes burpees.
No, and it slows you down. Like, so there's a lot of variables. Anything can happen. I want to go into the race with a very confident, attitude, but always that is in the back of my mind. It's OCR and anything can happen. Anybody can show up like literally they had t-shirts made the year that said, "Who the F is Robert Killian?" Because no one knew who I was. I was not expected to win. They didn't I wasn't one of the guys they announced, to come up to the front. I was just like an Army Ranger doing his thing. So there could be, I always say, there could be that guy that no one knows about that's not, on anyone's radar that just shows up and crushes.
That's awesome.
So we'll see what happens.
Cool,
we'll certainly be cheering you on for the race. It'll be great, and we might even be able to give an update maybe on Sunday as well too, which would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks, Robert. We've run out of time.
Yeah.
Really interesting to talk to you. I think you've probably inspired some people to give the Spartan a crack.
I hope so.
Man,
and try some ATP products. I mean, that's what we're all about. Is once you get to this level, is trying to find that extra 1 or 2% advantage over your competitors. So. I think that's nutrition-wise is half of the race. Yeah, you've got to be balanced not only with your gut health, with your carbs, with your fats, but knowing what works for you.
Yes,
and that's the thing. I mean, you never know until you try. Definitely, see a nutritionist or something, but find out what works for you, and that's what you got to stick to. So.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. Really good having you on, and. Thanks everyone for listening. Matt and I will be back, with more from Lake Tahoe tomorrow.
Woohoo!